Welcome to Origin Stories. I'm RD.
I'm Parrot.
We're telling stories behind the digital art revolution
Each week we interview top artists.
and live stream with the community.
Let's go. Today is tomorrow's origin story.
Jasti, welcome to Origin Stories.
Honored to be here, man. I've been watching a bit and it's been awesome.
And we've been talking about this for a bit, and it just happens to line up perfectly. You're approaching another milestone in your now fast developing career.
Yeah, it's been rocketing lately. It's been crazy.
Before we get to the rocket ship, let's go all the way back and let's lead up to the rocket ship. So the big question is,
right.
What is your origin story?
So it started back when I got my first camera when I was 13. It was Christmas and I'd already been doing photography on my iPhone a bit. That's where I started my creative journey. And then I believe it was that same Christmas, I also got Photoshop and Illustrator and the entire Adobe package. This was 2019, December, and then 2020, January through March, when we still had school, I was doing logos. Well, okay, so how it led up to logos is I was doing photography editing, and then I got into Photoshop. All right, so in January, I started making logos in Photoshop, and I realized after a while, because my friend had been using like all the programs for a while, and he was like, why aren't you using Illustrator for this stuff? And so that kind of set me off on my now crazy Illustrator journey that I've been embarking on this past year. And so then from there I kept making logos, and I was making and then the quarantine hit, and that was kind of a shifting point where I was more working on stuff and learning like that kind of stuff. And then I was working with my friend on, because this is even more far back, but me and my best friend, we used to work on games, right? And so I had always wanted to do the art for the games, and so I used that Illustrator skill on logos to start making little character designs and little like game characters and game assets and stuff like that. And then that eventually evolved to making like full-on art pieces, like how it was back in when I started back in July, especially after I saw Defaced doing his stuff on Instagram. I found him like off of somebody else's story. And so I saw that, I'm like, wait, I do this stuff in Illustrator. Why can't I make these kind of pieces as well? And so I just started making those pieces, and it went from there. And then I'd say around November of 2020, this is after I'd been doing art for a while. I had gotten a pretty decent stylized kind of language done with my work. And so I had Sam J on Instagram, and he posted a story of that he was releasing his first NFT on SuperRare, right? And so of course I'm like, wait, what is this? And then later, like a week later, it says sold for this much, and I was like, are you crazy? Because I had never heard of like an art piece selling for that much, like randomly, especially like, I'm like, how did this sell? How did this happen? And so I looked into it, and the good thing about my journey is I researched SuperRare before I researched NFTs. And so I kind of got that in, and throughout December, and then mid-December, I applied to SuperRare because I was like, why not, And then later in January, I got accepted to SuperRare. And so I was like freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I didn't know what was going to happen, because that was like the first time like my art had been like pushed up, because I had never done I had like done one commission. That was it. It's for a friend. And I had never done like anything. I'd never made any money off of my art other than like graphic design stuff that I got logo money from, which I ended up using to mint my first piece actually.
It's a good connect. So wait, take real quick before we get to your first piece. One logo that you worked on, like one logo that you remember that contributed to the ETH that you used to mint your first piece.
It honestly looks like the Artifacts logo.
That's fun.
It looked really similar to the Artifacts logo. The sad part is the dude who commissioned me to make the logo never ended up using it, but it's okay. Because the project kind of like iffied off. But then from there, I took that money and I like begged my parents to make me a Coinbase because I saw this stuff and was like, oh my, I need a Coinbase and a MetaMask now because I'm on this platform. I need to learn how to do it. And I got on the SuperRare, what was it called? The exception call, where they like introduce all the artists to how SuperRare works and what it is and how to mint and how like the strategy behind it. And so they were talking about MetaMask and all that stuff. And I knew nothing about that other than like Bitcoin, because you hear about Bitcoin like as a kid my age right now. I'd say you'd hear about it a lot in the media about like Bitcoin or like whatever cryptocurrencies that were around, but Bitcoin was the biggest back when I was like 12, 13, 14, and that was what I heard about. And so that was what I knew about. And I was like, okay, this is pretty similar, I'm pretty sure. And so that's how I got into it. And then I'd say around early February, I started designing this character that you see now in my first piece. It had no real significance to me at the beginning when I was making, because that's how I worked back then. I had no real significance behind my pieces at all. I had no really thought. It was just me drawing characters for fun or whatever I was doing, because that was what it was for back then. And so
this is the character in Forever Colored.
Yeah, Astral. That's what I named him right now. And I'm working on developing stories for everybody that I have in my Genesis. Right now I'm working on developing the stories for the Genesis one, and then I'm gonna expand it out to whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting on that. And then I kept working on it, and then it was actually my first animation as well, because I had been like procrastinating on like learning animation. And so I just went in headfirst to After Effects. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try this and do whatever. And it kind of worked out. And then so I like kind of hesitated. I showed it to all my friends on Twitter because I had under 100 followers, I believe, when I minted this piece. And I showed all my like art friends on Twitter. I'm like, what do you think of this? Do you think this is like worthy for my first SuperRare mint? And they're like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, I was really doubting myself back then because I didn't really have that self-confidence and that kind of backing that I have now on my artwork. And so I like minted it in the middle of the night because that's what I heard was the best thing to mint it at.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should take this down. I thought the whole next day I should take this down. And then I believe it was either like later that night or the next day, I started getting like these like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 bids. And I was like freaking out because that was $300 or $300 at the time is crazy. That was pretty crazy for me as a 15-year-old, especially now, you know, and with no experience, no like previous like client work, no previous experience in like any art at all, kind of selling space.
So you mint that piece right in the middle of the night. Do you post it on your Twitter account?
I posted on my Twitter account, and I believe it got 7 likes and 1 retweet.
Wow.
And
I mean, it's crazy to look back, right? You know, like under 100 followers, 7 likes, 1 retweet.
Yeah.
And so 0.1 comes in, 0.2, 0.3. You're thinking this is significant. This is something.
And then I was okay. The story that I always tell is that I was going to a youth group meeting with a bunch of other my friends and like some leaders and stuff that are there or whatever it was. And so I was all telling them about what all this was. And I'm like, my artwork is selling for $300 right now. This is crazy. Look at this. And they didn't believe it. And so I just showed them the page and they're like, what the heck is this? What is SuperRare? What is an NFT and all kind of stuff. And so I had to like, because I didn't really know much at the time, I'd like faintly explain it to them what the concept was. And so then that night, somebody bid 0.33 and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go. It's up, you know?
Yeah.
And then I as we're watching the movie for the youth group, I get this notification on my phone from my email from SuperRare. It says, wait, no, this wasn't actually from SuperRare. This because I didn't get it till a while, like 15 minutes later. But I got a notification from my friend on Discord. He's like, teach me what this is. I want to know what SuperRare and what this is, and what NFTs are. And so I sent him SuperRare website. And the way I found out about Fewocious bidding on my first piece was from his screenshot. He's like, why are you on the front page of this website? And it said bid from Fewocious, and I about jumped out of my seat when I saw it. I was like, and I like couldn't contain myself, because he was also one of the people that I saw on Twitter and Instagram, like doing all this stuff and like being a positive mentor for the space back then, and like showing that young people can succeed.
So what was that bid? What was Fewocious's bid back?
It was 0.4.
0.4. So it goes 0.3, 0.33. Fewocious comes in with 0.4.
And then I don't remember where it goes from there, because there were so many bids. All I remember is it bid up to 2.5 and Fewocious was bidding. And this was not an auction. This was just complete open offer. I said, I'm not accepting for 2 weeks. That was my thing.
Yeah.
My friend, he's like, okay, do not accept for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Leave it up for 2 weeks, and accept the bid after 2 weeks if it gets bids,
Yeah.
And so this was after a week of like bidding war between Fewocious and like all these other people. And then I go to sleep after Fewocious bid 2. I almost couldn't sleep because it was up to 2.5, and that was an insane amount of money for me and my family at that time. And so me and my mom were kind of freaking out, but my dad didn't believe it. My dad didn't really believe it was like real money. He was like, oh, that's just nothing. That's fake money. You can't really do anything with it at all. And so, but he's like, oh yeah, that's cool that you're doing that. And then so I wake up the next morning, and I have like 3 emails, and it's like bid 5 Ethereum from Mondor, bid, and then it was bid 5 Ethereum or 3 from Mondor, 5 from Beanie, and then 10 from Mondor. And I was like, and I almost like, I like jumped around the house, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and I had to go to class in the morning because it was still online class at the time. And so like, I was like, I had my mic muted, the camera off the whole time. I was like jumping around my house. I was not listening to the lecture or whatever it was that was going on at the time. And then later that day, I believe, I get a DM from Beanie on Twitter asking, how much do you want for the piece for you to accept it right now? And so I chat with my mom, and she's like, go for 20. And so I went for 20, and it worked. And then that's what happened. And it was like, I freaked out the whole day. It was like a whole month thing where I was like kind of like in shock of what. And then okay, the same day, Beanie reached out to me, because I also minted another piece because I saw the success of my first piece. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to mint a new one now. And so I minted that one, and it started getting bids again. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then the same way, and then Beanie reaches out to me. He's like, I have a friend that wants to buy your piece for 20 again. And I was like, are you kidding me? And so I was, and it happened. And then it was like, and it was, I believe it was like the same day or so.
It's a big deal.
I think it was like a day, and then the day after, and then it keeps going. I get reached out by this guy on Twitter who runs a show on Twitter Spaces now. It's Crazy About Crypto show. But he reaches out to me on Instagram. He's like, how much for a 1 of 1, right? And I'm like 20 Ethereum, because that was what my previous ones were selling for. He's like, sure. And so he's like, can you do 10 Ethereum with a Fewocious legendary shoe? Because that was around the time when the shoes first came out.
Yeah. I remember that.
Came out. And so I said, no, I don't want to ruin that price threshold, because a few of my Beanie and a few other collectors that were around me at the time explained to me what floor was and what all this strategy was in the space. And so I kept that up, and I was like, I still want to keep the deal with the Fevo shoe. And so he said, I'll do 20 Ethereum and a Fevo rare. And so I have that now in my collection. And then it keeps going. Later 888 reaches out to me. He wants to buy a piece. And I and I uppercut him a bit, but then I lowered it down back to 20 because I was like, why not? And so
and that's underwater.
what? Yeah, that's
Dated.
underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the underwater piece is so cool because that's like what I associate with Jasti is that character.
That's my character. That's my character.
Yeah.
I don't know the name yet, but it's probably going to be Jasti.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. I like to have a synonymous like giant group of characters. Like I was talking to Odious as well, and he sees my astral character as well as Jasti. And then, because I was painting him. I paint some of my characters sometimes. It's like whenever I see this character, I think of Jasti, and also that I already had the character from that piece, and it came from original like 2 tiny monsters. It was like the first thing I made in Illustrator. Is these like 2 tiny monsters, and they were separate, and they were blue and pink because that's my hair color at the time. And so, and then it evolved from there where they were like just separate, and then eventually for some reason I just combined them into one eye, split down the middle with horns. And then I just went from there with it.
And then do things pause for a moment? Was that the end of the the initial rocket ship?
It was the end, and then about a few weeks later, I make a piece with all 3 of the characters, all 3 of like the other characters and my main character. And it is To the Moon, which is now in Vincent VanDough's collection. But back then, I set it up with auction reserve price for 25, not expecting it to get hit at all. Right? I was like, this is me like being confident in my work, and I'm gonna leave it up. I'm gonna be patient. Like I have like my newer works, but I think it was within the hour I listed it for 25. I don't think, Keyboard Monkey. Hit it up for 25, and I was like playing with my friends on a video game. I forget which video game I was playing, but I was like, wait a second, I gotta hop off. And so I hopped off immediately and just like jumped around my house again, freaking out because that's what I do. I just can't contain the excitement that somebody would love my arts that much.
I mean, so what's the time span from your first minted artwork on SuperRare, immediately picks up steam, gets all those bids, Fewocious gets involved, ultimately lands, and then fast forward to the moon? What's that entire time frame with those 4
I believe
artworks?
that was within a month.
It's unbelievable. Like what?
It was from around February 21st to March 28th, I believe. And that was the whole time frame and all that happening. And then after that, it was kind of a big drought for me.
So after To the Moon and Keyboard Monkey, right? All this happens within a month span.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about things then? What's your thought process? Do you immediately mint again, or you take a step back?
I did mint a few weeks later. And then that sat for around 5 months, and then I ended up burning it in August.
That Nature's DJ, was that the one?
DJ, yes. Yeah. And it had an offer of 6 Ethereum, I believe, on it. And it had been sitting at that for 5 months. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna. It doesn't fit. It didn't fit with my narrative and what I wanted to create with my story and all that characters and all that kind of stuff. And so I felt like it wasn't really there yet. The concepts that I wanted to portray in my artworks.
So take us through the thought process. Like, again, just to reflect, all that happens within a month, and then you hit a 5-month span. How are you feeling within those 5 months? Are you thinking
in the 5 months? I'd say in the first few months, I was working on my Nifty drop, and so I was excited for that. I had a Nifty drop with Justin and Solus. It was the next generation drop with all the artists under 18. Well, not all of them, but the bigger ones. And I was working on that, and then I believe it was like a week before the drop, they let me know I can't do the edition sizes I wanted to do, and so everything kind of like dropped out. And we had a bunch of plans to do stuff with it, and then they're like, by the way, you can't do this, and it kind of like splat on the ground. I'm like, you know what? Yeah. But then after that, I was kind of down a lot. I was like, because it was the summer and nothing was happening at all. And then it was like all down. I was like, oh, why even do this? You know, because it was kind of like, and then I believe I spent July working on my latest one, the odd portrait. And it was because it was around the 1 year anniversary of me making art. And so I thought it was really special to me to make a piece about that. And I really think it's gonna be special to make a piece every year now to express that. And maybe eventually get to Christie's. You never.
That'd be amazing. So how do you find that motivation in that moment where, so much happens really fast. Then there's the summer drought, and you're having those very natural thoughts of like, well, like, right, you said something along the lines of like, should I keep doing this, or is this the space, or is this the thing? How do you then find the motivation to create what I believe personally is your most extensive, intricate artwork?
Yeah. From there, I started, instead of doing mainly digital artworks, I transitioned into mainly trying to spray paint and oil paint and all these kind of stuff. And so from there, I came up with some ideas, and then this one painting stood out to me, and I painted it sideways. So it's kind of like a tilted painting like this. And so it's the main eye and mouth you see in the portrait that I made. And so I went from there. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta turn this into something. And so I made it, because me and my friend painted it outside, because we used to paint a ton, but now I moved to Colorado, which is sad, but that happens. And so we painted that, and then I was like, wait, I'm gonna make this an Illustrator as a joke, and I liked it. And so I kept going on it, and then I just used references and all that kind of stuff, and like kind of just like kept going and like came up with these concepts. And it was like, it branched out so far. I had like a whole whiteboard about it. I was like everywhere.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of came out. I was like, I prepared so much stuff for it, and I was so excited to drop it. And then I'd say you got a ton of bids at the beginning, and you were one of the bidders.
Yeah. I was high bid for quite a while.
You were high bid for about 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's just what happens. I was like, it kind of hit again the month after, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna keep going, because then I talked to Tommy and got that Nifty drop rolling that's coming now.
Yeah.
So then I started work on that, and then getting some concepts and ideas for that and everything.
One of the things that I've noticed through the stretch of time where you put Odd Portrait out, and probably like a couple months before that, right? Mm-hmm. You're at work, like you're on Twitter doing things. You're out there, you're engaging. Personally, I feel like you're in this constant learning process. Like you're engaging in a really productive manner. You're trying things out, quickly iterating, and then finding the things that click in and work. And it's this really interesting use of social and like a blending with your art.
Yeah. I'm not sure how exactly I translate myself, because I just do that naturally as my instinct of like tweeting and like just being social in general. But I just like to share my art processes a lot, because I do a lot of stuff now, a lot more than I used to do. And so it's fun to kind of share and get opinions on what I'm doing and what I'm working on and what my ideas are out to the world.
It's one of my favorite things about you. It's like when Odd Portrait came out, it's like I knew I was probably not going to win the artwork at that level, but nevertheless, I was really obviously happy to be involved in the bidding. Yeah. Again, to this day, it's my favorite. It's my favorite Jasti. And just that time period, you really, really caught my personal attention. I think I speak for a lot of people in the space just by being out there, by going through all of those iterations that you went through. I mean, we had the pleasure of doing the Artifacts project, and
that was awesome.
The build up to that was super fun. And actually that leads us to another pretty dramatic week span in your world that involved 3 artworks.
It's weird how it works for me. It all happens in week to month spans. like all the rocket ships that happened for me. It's been all in like a week or a month.
So describe that week. So involving the 3 artworks,
Right.
take it from any angle you want.
So how this week started is, I'm going to start from the beginning, like the main beginning of how it all started. Okay. So on the first day of school, I got my schedule and I started doodling like crazy on it. And so I just kept doodling and came up with this new style until I started doing iPad. And then I started drawing that, if you know, the amalgamation piece I put out, the edition drop. And then I put that out. Well, I put the piece out and it got like crazy, like interaction, like more than I've ever gotten on any art piece I've ever put out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I'm like, why not put an edition up and like get people to own a piece of my art? Because I had only done one-of-ones in the artifact sculpture before. And so it's like, why not? And so from there, I put it out, and then I did a Dutch auction style because I didn't know how else to do it at that point, and I thought it was the best, and it actually worked because people were getting secondary sales within like the hour of them buying it, because it kept going up and up and up, and it was fun to do, and it was exciting to see. And then from there, if you know Ack, he tweeted out, "Nice piece, bro." Nice. And so guess who saw that? Vincent VanDough. And he's like, and so he follows me, checks out my SuperRare, and he DMs me. He's like, yo, how much for odd portrait? And I said 20 to be conservative in that hat. And then he's like, okay, I'll be back on my computer in like an hour. And I'm like, wait, you're serious? Because like I've had people reach out to me before, right? They're like, how much for this piece? I'm like 20. And they're like, okay, I'll do it. And then they never do it. And so I'm like, you know. And then that happened, and then I kept talking. I was like, "Thank you for supporting my artwork." You know, I was doing like excitement again. And then I'd say about an hour later, he's like, he DMs me. He's like, "By the way, new ATH sale." I'm like, "Huh?" And so because Keyboard Monkey had his listed for 40 Ethereum on accident, because he was somewhere where he couldn't access his ledger to delist his piece by the time. And so that happened, and then it went for 40, and I was kind of freaking out because this is the all-time high, you know.
It's a big moment.
Yeah, especially on secondary to see. It's nice to see collectors getting, shows that there's actual reason. And then after that, I reached out to him and said, by the way, I only have one of one left on Artifacts. And so he goes on to Artifacts and then bids on mine, and then also bids on Christie's, which was awesome to see.
It was boom, right at the same time.
It was awesome to see, especially from me introducing him to Artifacts, and then him bidding on a ton of other pieces as well.
It was a special moment. And if you remember, one of my favorite moments surrounding that whole process, you started a Twitter space to essentially what we both thought was probably closing the auction down. Maybe not at first, but when it got to a couple minutes, it was like, all right, this is probably going to be the end. And then live on Twitter space, another big comes in.
We were kind of freaking out because we were like, wait, who is this? Because it was I believe it wasn't a new bidder, but it was a dude who bid on it before, and he just waited till the last second to bid for some reason. And then they went up to 17.5, and then the dude DMs Vincent VanDough, and he's like, oh yeah, by the way, Vincent VanDough DMs him, and he's like, why did you wait till the last second to bid on this? You know, he's like, I just want to get your attention. And so he drops off his bids, and then because he drops off his bids, Vincent VanDough drops off his bids, and then it keeps going down, and then it goes, and then it went back up to 15, saga. And then it went back up to 15, and then it went back up to 10, 12, and then 11, and then it went everywhere. And then just one night I was painting, and Roger's like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go in, and he goes in with 15 Ethereum. Or you did. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I know that's not backing out, because it's you. You got those diamond hands.
but then it all comes full circle.
Yep. It was awesome.
and it goes to start the Starry Night.
Starry Night.
Vince's Fun, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Great home for
It's awesome, but he's been doing with it as well. He's been supporting a ton of artists and buying off secondary.
Yeah, man. So what a week. 3 artworks, two to Vincent VanDough, 1 to Starry Night. Yeah, and another burst, another mega burst in the chapter of Jasti.
I think after this, I just can't wait till I get that next one-on-one out, because I'm gonna make it even better than the. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna make it even better than the odd portrait, and make it like even more extensive. And I'm just excited to do it.
I mean, that's the fun of it all, man. I mean, just looking at your artworks, I have your SuperRare up here, and you get to odd portrait. You publicized a lot of your doodles on Twitter. You have amalgamation, and it's just you can feel it. It's going, and we have the pleasure of watching a special artist develop in real time, and share the process transparently, which is incredible.
That's what I love about it, is that I get to develop my art skills while also sharing with the community and letting them see my development as an artist throughout. Mm-hmm. And who knows where I'll be in like a year or 2 or 3, and you'll get to see that whole development of how I've grown from the beginning of my SuperRare to where I'll be then.
Who knows? I have a maybe there's another burst. Maybe there are many more bursts. I have a hunch there probably will be along this crazy ride. Take us back to a moment that you shared on social of collaborating on a physical artwork in person.
Oh yes, I went over. Me and Fewocious had been DMing for a while, and then one day I was like, I need someone to just go paint with. He's like, yo, come over, let's paint. And so I went over, and then he invited me over, and we went and painted and got supplies and went out around Seattle and did stuff. And so it was really fun. And then he kind of gave me some. I believe that was my first painting as well. It kind of got me into that kind of mindset of where you don't need to care about what people think. You don't need to care about what you think. It just needs to be from your heart. That's what I've learned a lot from him.
It's a great takeaway. Because I mean, Fewocious is very free. It seems like such a freedom of expression, which is amazing, and I think it's why he's so beloved. So it's fun to hear that with that encounter, you took that away as well. Good stuff rubbing off on good people.
Oh, yeah, we also got to hang out with Parrot.
Yes, my bro.
I can't wait to go meet up with him again. He's so awesome.
New York's around the corner.
Yes. I'm excited for that.
Yep, around the corner. All right, so talk about next milestone is Niftygateway. You had mentioned a little bit ago, Tommy had reached out. You started, frameworking what is now coming fast and furious. It will, be a couple days on Sunday after this origin story releases. So talk us through what can we expect?
Right now I have an open edition, I believe for $500, because it works on Niftygateway. It works in dollars instead of Ethereum. And then I'm going to be doing a 50 out of 50 drawing for 800 each drawing entry. And I'm going to be doing a ranked auction, which I'm really excited for as well.
How many editions in the ranked auction? Do you know?
10.
That's great.
Yeah.
So three pieces, all little bit of a different approach to each.
Mm-hmm.
Excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Each one is like a reflection of me, as well as a reflection of the characters back into me.
So talk us through. Let's go a little bit of a tangent.
Mm-hmm.
One thing today, this moment that we stand in, the fall of 2021, as we record this. One thing in the NFT space that fascinates you right now.
That's tough. I'd say how well the community sticks together through anything. Honestly, it's crazy. Like even through whatever this, I don't know if it's even it's like a bear bull market. It's weird. Yeah. It's kind of like where it's kind of like pulling down and pulling up at the same time. I was like, what?
Yeah. And
through all this confusion, it just sticks together through the GM.
The GM and GNs.
That's also how much people like connect to the GM.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It's interesting how we have these acronyms that popularize, people rally around. They really do bond the community together.
Yeah,
and then you
absolutely.
see them spawn off into the art itself.
Yeah.
Which is fun. It's special.
Yeah. I was thinking about putting him in some of the Niftygateway pieces, but then I was like, I don't know. Maybe next time.
Yeah. You have these iconic examples recently of, a lot of money in his Niftygateway release, did the Good Morning. Nest Graphics just did the GMGN.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the not going to make it or going to make it. A lot of those acronyms have made it into various artworks, X copy, a lot of different artists. It's fun.
Absolutely.
All right, Jasti, you ready to play lightning round?
Sure, let's go.
All right, I'm going to throw topics at you. Hot takes, a word, a couple words, a phrase, a sentence. And if you get fired up about something, feel free to break the rules, hit pause, and just go off on a tangent about something. Okay?
Right.
All right, here we go. NFTs.
The future.
Ethereum.
Decentralized.
SuperRare.
Tokenized artworks.
Let's pause on this one because we didn't get to this artwork, but foundation. Give me the word first, and then let's talk about your artwork.
Invite.
Okay. And then let's talk about your artwork, because that was that was a really interesting one. It kind of it kicked up a frenzy within a day, right? It had this bidding frenzy going on. I remember I was loosely following it. But yeah, talk about the artwork.
Yeah. I made the artwork because I was bored. I was so bored of what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was so bored with that because I kept making characters and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so boring, because I was making the same thing over and over again. And so I just decided to make these like colorful, like weird movie things, whatever they are, on the sides. And also the character with the half skull, it came from a little, I posted on Twitter one time, but it came from a little doodle I did on my, because it was like the first time I got my Wacom. I got a Wacom Cintiq, one of those big tablets for my desk area. And so I sketched that on there. And then the idea for like the half skeleton came and all that kind of stuff. And it just went from there. And I was like, okay, people are liking this a lot. And so I'm like, why not mint this on Foundation? And can say I don't want to put another SuperRare release out there. And it was interesting to see because I put out one Ethereum and that was my lowest like reserve I had done. And then I was kind of concerned because it wasn't getting that much traction at the beginning. And then I hosted a spaces, if you know, with Judy Lindsay. I'm not sure how to say it, but she's really nice and she's like hosted tons of spaces for artists and it's awesome. But we were in the space and it like kept going up. It went from like 4 to 5 and it was bidding war between Defiance Works and Max. I don't know what his name is really, but it's like Max something on Twitter. And then they went up and then Defiance Works ended up with it at 13.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
And then a few weeks ago, we got to meet up in Vegas it was for his company, New Street.
Oh, that's fun.
We got to meet up and then he showed me some stuff and I got to give him his collector token. It's just a mini canvas with like his punk with a ton of doodles around it. It's really cool. I'll have to send you a picture of it afterwards.
Yeah, please do. That's fun. It's fun that you do that. And
he also showed me his phone wallpaper, and he has like the Google Flip or whatever it is. And so the piece covered the whole background. It was really cool.
Nice.
I can't wait. I have a giant print. I can't wait to show him it.
That's amazing, man.
Over to him, but it's nice.
It's great that you do that. It's great that you do that.
I've been doing these metal prints. I think I've showed you them. All of my collectors, and so that's what I'm working on now for Vincent VanDough. I've been getting it takes like a good month to get here. So,
he's got a lot coming his way.
He's got a lot coming his way. I'm excited to bring it to him.
All right, back to the lightning round. Ready?
All right.
All right, game face on. Here we go. Artifacts project.
Waves.
Fewocious.
That's hard. There's so much that comes to mind.
Go with it.
Heart.
Parrot.
Parrot.
I like that. That was good. Defaced.
Simple.
Sanjay.
Breaking ground.
The future.
Young artists.
Young artists. And that's a good place to wrap the lightning round.
Yep.
I like it. I like the response on parrot. I see what you did there. You went meta with it. I appreciate that. So Jasti, I know obviously the answer to what's next is your Nifty drop. That's coming up very, very soon. But let's steamroll through that for a second, and let's just, for the sake of argument, and I think this is an easy argument, I think it's going to be very successful. Take a step beyond that. Take a step literally into the future, your future, and just give us a window in how you think about the horizon line.
That's kind of tough because I don't know what's coming after this. But I want to just keep working on our work, keep seeing where it's going, working on whatever's next. Hopefully, Christie's, Sotheby's, maybe.
Hey.
Dream big.
Absolutely. This is the right time, right? We're seeing digitally native start to blend with a lot of traditional art. We're seeing it, escalate up the.
Definitely, I want to experiment with more traditional art as well. I want to figure out a way to kind of mix that together, as well as digital plus the traditional. That's my main goal right now, is to figure out a way to do that. Which
I think all bets are off in the best of ways. You're trailblazing this just as much as anyone twice or more your age. I love to see it. I love to see you out there in social, being free, right? To take that lesson from Fewocious, being free, doing your thing, iterating it forward. Good on you. Keep going. I'm here for it. I think a lot of us are.
For sure.
All right, man. Thank you for coming on Origin Stories. And I am positive there will be a milestone Origin Stories. And so I'd love to have you back at some point.
Sounds great. It's been a pleasure being on.
All right, man.